notice Goliath-sized challenges often feel hopeless because overcoming them seems impossible? Self-reliance will never defeat giants. God-reliance, on the other hand, makes the seemingly impossible possible. On this season of the Challenges Won't Stop Me podcast, gain insights and inspiration as guests share how God equipped and empowered them to overcome their giant-sized challenges with powerful God-reliant strategies, habits, mindsets, and fight verses. With God fighting for you, you too can overcome Goliath-sized challenges. Host Melanie Brown is eager to get started, so let's go!
I am super grateful to have Lisa Stephen with me again today to share about the strategy of seeking wise advisors. I'm certain you'll love hearing how several wise advisors poured into her and how their words, prayers, and actions impacted her. A wise advisor once told me, "Mel, just get to it already." So, in honor of her, let's get to it. I am thrilled to have Lisa Stephen back with me again today. If you haven't listened to her story episode, please make sure you do that because it will help you understand what she and I are going to be talking about today. And that is the topic of the importance of having wise advisors. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
I loved this topic when you sent in the information sheet that I ask all my guests to do just so that I'm a little bit prepared before we speak. I believe strongly in having and seeking wise counsel.
Yes.
It's hugely important because if we try to do this life thing, challenges, struggles, good days, whatever, without having that near us, by us, accessible, we're going to run into some brick walls.
Yep, I agree.
Tell me why you wanted to talk about this strategy.
Well, for me, we talked about in our last episode how my background is literally I worked at JCPenney's and I did home daycare. So why would God choose me, a former teenage mom, to open what is now a $5 million nonprofit? And obviously did not start out that way. We started out very small and we've grown over the last 23 years. And I will tell you, my dream and my goal was always because I was a teenage mom and got married, I didn't go to college. I always thought I would eventually go to college when my kids got old enough. It turns out that when God called me to do something I was completely not equipped to do, I learned the lesson of how He will surround you with the most amazing people to make His calling a reality. The truth is, I have learned so much more and had so much fun learning it by being a part of the lives of so many wise advisors over the years and just learning from them and their experience and their wisdom and what they've learned and then imparted to me. And it was honestly so much more fun than getting a college degree. And I never did go back to college.
I am not disagreeing with you. I went to college and I'm grateful for that. Truly grateful.
Yes.
But I have always, even as a kid, enjoyed hanging out with men and women older than me
Yes.
because they talked about far more interesting things and they had stories to tell and wisdom to share.
Yes.
And I have a mentor now and she is absolutely amazing. She gives great advice, great encouragement. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah. In all honesty, I think I'm the only person at Hope House now who doesn't have a college degree. So I very much affirm going to college and getting further education. But for me in particular, the very specific things I needed to learn as we grew Hope House, God always provided. So whether it was the board chair who I had never managed people, I had never run a business, I didn't know how to read a financial spreadsheet. There would be the board chair who knew how to manage people and had managed a large business. And so he taught me about management. There was a board member who knew all about strategic planning. I had never even heard of a strategic plan or what that meant. He taught me all about strategic planning and how to do that. or the volunteer who volunteered to teach parenting classes and was brilliant at it. And she just connected with our moms, our teenage mamas, in a way that was different than even how I connected with our mamas. And learning from her how you can help a teenage mom or really anyone. Now, as a mother in law, I definitely am grateful for this lesson that we can't just tell how to do parenting. Like the most sensitive place anybody feels in their life is their parenting. So you can't just tell them how to do it or they're going to feel like they're immediately shut down. But if you can help them to buy in by just coming alongside them. And I learned how to do that by watching Shannon back in the day do that.
Those are great examples. As we said about you taking on the Hope House, just following God and saying, I don't know, God, but you said for me to do it, and I'm trusting that you're going to equip and empower me.
Yes.
That's part of that equipping and empowering. He is giving us what we need through people who've been there, done that, and who have gained wisdom from it.
Yes.
I cannot stress how valuable it is to connect with other people, not necessarily older, but people who have the experience that you need or they have the connections that you need. Because I'm sure that you've needed connections to many different things through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how Hope House even got to have a house. We were so naive. We just went around and told people we were going to open a home for teenage moms. So many people were kind enough to give us a little bit of their time to sit down with and learn about how they built housing developments or nonprofits that worked in housing or whatever it might be. We always took them homemade brownies to thank them for their time. And the gentleman who eventually donated our house to us he jokes today that you got your house because of homemade brownies, because I remembered you when it was time. Yes, I always say God is the greatest connector of all. It's not about networking, and it really is about connecting, and God is the great connector. And He built us for community. When we get to learn from one another, it builds a community, it builds and strengthens a community. I think gives its heart joy.
I love how you just described that. I have never thought about it that way, but spot on.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Lisa. I love it. Tell me about some wise advisors in your personal spiritual life.
Well, the very first one who comes to mind was our I talked in the first episode about being a part of MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers, now called the Mom Co. Way back then, they called them Titus Women, and I think they call them mentor moms now. But our mentor mom was Sandy, the wife of our pastor at the time, and she was a person who literally, when you sat next to Sandy, you felt like Jesus was sitting on the other side of her. You just felt like you were like in close proximity to Jesus if you were sitting near Sandy. Sandy had the unique ability of being clear and kind all at the same time. And I remember a time where I just got too big for my britches in my volunteer role. I was kind of running over my co-coordinator of our little children's program and doing things without her and not including her. And Sandy sitting me down and just having a conversation with me about, and I thought I was right, that we needed to do things this certain way. And Sandy saying, that may very well be true, that we should adjust the way we're scheduling or whatever it is. But this person is your co-leader and you've gone around them and not respected them. And just the impact of her being willing to be honest with me so I could grow. I was probably 22 at the time. And no one had ever been honest with me, like, this is how your actions might be impacting another person. And I didn't really grow up in a home where those values were modeled. Sandy being willing to give me a chance to lead when I maybe didn't have any business leading, but then come alongside me and teach me and mentor me and not shame me, but definitely the verses that God will discipline his children because he loves them. Like, that was an example of I needed a little discipline, and she was willing to be a part of that with me, and I couldn't have grown without it.
Thank goodness. At 22, if you hadn't had her pouring into you, things could have gone significantly different and you wouldn't be where you are today. I don't want to put it all on one person, but we know how it all kind of a domino thing. This happens and then this happens and all of it impacts each other. I think it is so, so important to have those wise advisors. Can you think of a person you would consider to be a wise advisor who has helped you learn about God, maybe strengthened what you know about the Bible?
Well, we talked a little bit in the first episode about my mother-in-law, my relationship with my mother-in-law, and she is definitely probably the person who has most profoundly impacted my faith and was the first person to tell me, hey, if you have questions, God can handle that. He wants you to open the Bible. He wants you to read his word. He wants you to ask questions of him. And that was mind blowing to me. Like, thought, if you asked questions, it meant you were going straight to hell. She really helped me to understand how to build an actual relationship with Jesus. And I learned that through the beautiful women around me in MOPS, or now the Mom Co, as well, because they modeled that. Being in MOPS was the first time I'd ever heard women pray out loud or pray for each other or carry one another's burdens. Those were not things I had been exposed to. As a group, they were mentoring me as a very young mom, bringing me in under their wing, I guess, in a way.
Lisa, could we do a little Bible lesson where we share some verses? We talk about maybe how that applied in our lives, or maybe somebody specific that we think of. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Okay.
Referring to what we talked about in terms of Sandy and how she was willing to be my teacher, I think as much as she was willing to be a teacher, I also had to be willing to have a teachable spirit. And that's something that we talk about with our teen moms, that we have to be open to learning, right? And I love Proverbs 19:20, which says, listen to advice and accept instruction that you may gain wisdom in the future. I think about Pastor Tellus, who is an amazing man who served on our board of directors for many years and really exemplified that verse in my life in helping me to lead Hope House, because being a leader is incredibly humbling and you can't do it without really submitting to God and to the people that he puts into your life that are the wise advisors and leaders in your life.
Great example. We need to listen to them, to heed their instruction. They're not there to tell us, you should do this with this
Yes.
heavy hand. They're doing it because they've likely been there, done that, and they're like, ooh, that was not a good outcome, and I don't want that for you.
Much like parents.
Yes, much like parents.
So true. Another one I just love is Proverbs 24:6. For by wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counselors there is safety. That so well described sometimes how it, and still today, sometimes feels with Hope House when you're in so many places in our life, but certainly in ministry, it feels like we come up against so much. The enemy just doesn't want teenage moms to learn that God loves them.
No,
He wants them to stay in fear and desperation and despair,
bondage.
because he's got them right where he wants them. For us to come along and teach them that it's the exact opposite and that God loves them and values them and cherishes them, the enemy's going to throw up a lot of roadblocks. If I am trying to lead in my own strength, I'm so much more likely to or fall into those roadblocks. You need wise advisors to give you that wise counsel. Sometimes they're older than you, sometimes they're not, but there is truly safety in those counselors because they're keeping you on the path God put you on. They're going before you, they're clearing the pathway for you, sometimes with prayer and intercession, sometimes through, hey, I don't want you to go down the wrong path like I did and land yourself in trouble.
You talked about safety. I can just have this image of this mama hen trying to protect you. I welcome that. I
Yes.
welcome that. Not
Totally.
everybody does because they feel constrained by it. And then you also brought up prayer. As I mentioned about my mentor, one of the things means so much to me is how much time she devotes to prayer for me and my family and whatever challenges or concerns that I have. After she prays, oftentimes she will say, hey, Mel, this is something that I want you to consider.
Hmm.
It is such wise counsel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we forget or don't think sometimes how prayer and intercession is its own form of wise counsel. One of the very first things we did before we started Hope House was to start a prayer team, and that was only because I happened to be in an experiencing God Bible study with a woman who did happen to be a little bit older than me, and I was having my crisis of faith. I thought I was supposed to go to school and do all these other things, and God said, "No, you're going to go start Hope House." And she was wise enough to say, "Well, why don't I pray for you about that?" And then from there, she got a few other women to come together and pray for me to start with, which is so humbling to have, like you said, for your mentor. When someone prays specifically for you, it's so,
Ugh,
so powerful and humbling to have someone devote their time to intercede for you. And really, that has grown into what is today just a huge prayer team that really does go before us and clear the path. I tell them all the time, they're the least noticeable in quotation marks. Like they're not the people up on a stage singing and praising God. They're very quietly at home praying for us. And they are doing the hardest work because they're literally fighting the battle to go before us as we go before those teen moms and their babies.
I think you just nailed it with the hardest work. Without that, you'd just be wide open for the enemy to attack you from all directions and feed your brain with all kinds of lies that to stop you from making progress.
Yeah.
And no, mine is kind of the, yeah, of course you're going to pick this one. But the Titus 2 about mentoring, because I have mentors and because I have mentored, I know how important qualities of what Paul was wanting those older men and women to see that they had, that they could advise the younger people. It's from Titus 2, starting at verse 2. Teach the older men to be temperate, worthy of respect, self controlled, and sound in faith, in love, and endurance. If you think about what those traits are, temperate, worthy of respect, self controlled, sound in faith, in love, and endurance, if they are doing those things, they don't even have to say anything. Their actions are speaking and teaching those things. And then verse 3, likewise teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers, gossip,
Yeah.
or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Again, if the older women, if we, you and I, Lisa, if we're doing these things, yes, we can talk about them to the younger ones, but they can also learn from our actions. Then verse 4 says, then they can urge the younger women to love their husbands and children.
Yes.
Your mother-in-law did that for you.
So true.
To be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. Those verses are so powerful to me. If we were to live up to those words, wow, what a difference all of us would have on the world and on each other. We have gained that wisdom that then we can share, whether it's in words or deeds, or you are watching my life or I'm watching your life. So,
Oh, so true. It makes me think of how so often at Hope House, it's important for, our teen moms look at our staff and they think, well, you have it all together and you're older than me. And they think we do it all right all the time. And so for us to just be genuine and real and say, you know what, I had a really parent fail. I yelled at the kids on the way to school. And then I just came to work feeling terrible because I let my temper get the better of me and I left one of them crying. That happens on the way to school. For us to be honest and real and authentic and say, I messed up today too. It just allows them to see that we're not someone they can't ever be. We are
right.
we are just like you and we're struggling every day, but we're giving it back to God. I'm relying on my mother-in-law. My son now, who is a parent, hopefully relies a little bit on me, and just generationally, we're coming alongside each other.
To go along with the wise advisors is that we need each other.
Yes. We need each other, and we need each other to be real and authentic. And when someone who's been real and authentic and built relationship with you has some wisdom to speak into your life, you're so much more likely to receive it. If someone just comes along and says, hey, you're doing it wrong, you should do it this way, you're going to just blow them off. Really, a key concept at Hope House is transformation happens within long-term relationship with a healthy adult. Our teen moms, we need to earn their trust and build relationship with them so that when we do speak into their life, we've earned some right to speak into their life by building that relationship.
Yes, and I love that transformation happens over time. Oh, is it hard? And I think wise advisors are part of that transformation. God uses wise advisors to help our transformation, our growth.
Yeah.
Lisa, I think we talked about one before we hit record that I thought, yes, we have got to share that one. Do you remember that one?
I love Proverbs 19:20 through 21. Listen well to wise counsel and be willing to learn from correction so that by the end of your life, you'll be known for your wisdom.
That was it.
It's so
I
powerful.
like that
And
one.
so it's hard. It's hard to be corrected. It's hard for us to submit to correction in our life. And I'm the first one to say, I will get so defensive. My first reaction might be with God or with one of my wise advisors to get so defensive, but then to kind of step back and pray about that and reflect on it and be able to say, wow, that is a truth that I needed spoken into my life. And if I'm willing to embrace it and I'm willing to submit to a word from a wise advisor, it might be God giving me words of correction. Eventually, I guess we all hope that we will be known for our wisdom, at least to the extent that we want our kids to, what is it in Proverbs 31, rise up and call you blessed? we hope for that day sometime with our children.
I would like that to be said of me by my sons.
Me too.
The idea of going through your whole life and then at the end that being said over you. And I can think of men and women I have known over the years. I knew they had lived a godly life and that they had gained wisdom as a result. And what they said, whether it was through a Bible teaching or just a conversation when we were just chatting, when they passed on, that would be something that would come to me almost immediately. Wow, they were an amazing woman or an amazing man. What made them amazing was that they followed God. As a result, they were wise. And that would be the first thing that I would think of when they had passed on.
Mm.
For that to be a Bible verse where it's talked about at the end of your life to be known as wise.
And what a
I see
legacy.
now why God brought that up every time one of those men or women passed away. And I've probably read that verse before, but us having this discussion maybe has highlighted it for me and made me more aware of it, I guess.
I love that. I love that whole concept of the legacy that we leave through allowing ourselves to become wise because we've been willing to accept wise advice. We've been willing to accept correction when we need it because God's building us up and drawing us nearer to Him. And then we get to leave that for someone behind us. What a beautiful circle to continue. If we all were doing that, then what a different world it might be.
Amen. I think this is a great place for us to wrap up. And I am just grateful for both episodes with you. I have enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.